Okay, so why had asked a question. I'm not sure if why left and then came back. There's an internet problem there. Okay, so this is similar to what we were talking about, but the opposite. We talked about this last week, why with rolling those webinars we posted last week about rolling the in-the-money covered calls. But let's take an opposite view, and I'm going to go back to the portfolio. So why's question is, rolling out an in-the-money option, can you speak on the approach of using the percent time value of an option, example less than 2.5%, to identify those positions as rollout candidates to capture theta? Our target is 1%. Why? That's what we use. But it also depends on the structure. What do I mean by that? Let's go just to covered calls. Okay, so I'm going to go to search. If I'm doing, this is a, yeah, good. Okay, so this is the in-the-money monthly covered call screen. And in these positions, you're usually looking, as percent if assigned, you're looking at a time value of maybe 1.5% to 2.5%. We're out to April. I'd like to see a little bit more there for the percent if assigned. But for the deep in the money, let's not go as deep in the money. Let's put a minimum percent return if assigned of at least 3%. See if we get anything for an in the money covered call. Perfect. Okay. So here are some positions in the money covered call. Still good downside protection, 1 month out in time. 3.4%, 4.8%. Return if assigned being slightly in the money. Not as deep as the money Y as we saw with the other ones. Now, as I get closer to expiration, I want to get more than, I'm not quite at half. So you said a time value of less than 2.5%. We'd use a target of 1% or less. So if I sold this with a potential return of 3.1, I want to make sure I'm getting at least 2, maybe 2.5% of actual time value return in my favor, decay, so that my current time value is less than 1% before I roll the position. Let me take Masco and go into the portfolio. And I'm going to enter just a new covered call. And Masco's MAS. And these are not real numbers. This is just an example. I'm aware of this stock. It's one of the married puts that we opened recently in the Fusion portfolio. I'm going to put in $55 per share, purchase price on 310. And I'm going to sell the April, have to use the April, because the May is 0 time value right now. And we're going to put that at 310 as well. And the stock's up at 57. So we're just going to put in that I got 1.25 net premium on this call 9 days ago. Okay, so my original expected return was 2.3%. And right now I'm only at a 0.8% gain. But this is what I'm looking for. I'd want this to be 1% in my favor. What's an easy way to look at it? As we talked about before, number one, go into the alerts page when you're tracking the covered call positions in the portfolio Y. And I'm going to put the ask percent time value limit of less than 1%. Oh, sorry. And I'm going to mark that as green in my favor. So that's alert I'm going to set. If the time value is less than 1% on the position, then I can set other alerts as well in that case. Let's go ahead and save that. Okay, now it hasn't triggered yet. If it had, I'd see this show up as green. But as before, I want to go to, if I saw the alert triggered, I'd go to position actions, and we'd go to position analysis. Time value left in price is 1.4%. Personally, Ernie and myself, we allow it to go down to 1%. Why did I say it's different? Well, we each have our different goals. Why? If you want to use 2.5%, that's your prerogative. If you're looking at highly volatile positions where you sold into 5%, 6%, 7% of time premium, maybe 2.5% works. I'm looking at already in the money covered calls with high protection that we're only offering a 3% return or 3% of time value. So I want to get at least 2/3 of that. I may consider rolling or adjusting the position if my time value is dropped less than 1%. Which usually happens if the stock continues up, is in the money, and we're getting closer to expiration, or it really has a bad fall, which we don't want to talk about, which we kind of just talked about for Oleg a moment ago. And so that's my personal target. Now, also, we have to discuss something else here. If I was doing the weekly covered call screen, let's go back. I'm sorry, out of the portfolio, back to covered calls, and go to the search. If I'm using a weekly where my 7-day out return is only 0.8%, the time value I'm collecting Y is only 0.8, 0.9% return. Sorry, weekly picks of the day. Let's go there. But some of these might be a little bit higher, of course. Still, I want to try to collect 2/3 of the time value that I expected to collect. So here we're, okay, 1.9% was my starting. Well, if I close that at a 1% time premium, remaining based on the position analysis, the alert I set in my portfolio, I only made 50% of what I expected to make for the time value profit on the position. Maybe I want a little bit more. Maybe I want that to be 2/3, maybe even 3/4. Take it down when the time value is at about 0.3 or 0.25. Personal preference. Our target's usually a 1% using the monthly covered calls, or if we've made 80%, in other words, the stock continued up as MAS is doing, it's at 57, I get closer to expiration, my expected return was 2.8%. If a couple weeks before April expiration, the stock's at 61 and I can liquidate the position and make 80 to 85% of that 2.6, 2.8% return, I might close it early because the time value is less than 1, might take the profits at that time. From what I'm doing, for what we saw in the month out search that we were looking at, with the 3.5% return in that case, 2.5% time value. If the option loses down to 2.5% of its time value, I think that's not enough. I want it to go down to 1% in that case. All right, so Ken says, for trading accounts that is only allowed for level 2 option, registered TFSA or RSP, is there a good option strategy that can be done, to mimic naked cash secured puts? The goal is to generate monthly income. Ken, the answer is the in-the-money covered call. Okay, an in-the-money covered call is a parity trade to the out-of-the-money naked put. Weekly, 2 weeks out, whatever term. Let's go back. I should have stayed on the weekly covered call screen. I apologize for that. Just give me 1 second here to go back. All right. So let's just take US Steel. This is not a recommendation or suggestion. Okay, but US Steel, I just grabbed it because it's we'll use this. It's at 22.41. And next Friday's March 21.5 strike call is trading at 138 midpoint, This is a 2.2% return if assigned. So what does that mean? Of course, we have a 6% break even on that position. We take a look at the profit and loss chart here. Ken, I'm buying shares of stock at 22.41, selling an in-the-money 21.50 call for 138. Lowers my cost basis to 21.03 out of pocket, margin requirement, cost basis, whatever you want to call it. And if the stock stays above 21.50, we get assigned, we make $47 profit, 47-cent profit, or 2.2% return if assigned. Now, clear these out. Level 2 usually gives you access to do covered calls, buy calls only, and buy puts. So March 26th, 21.50 put, 49 to 55. Okay, so midpoint might be higher than what we got with the 138 in the money, 21.50 call. But what are we looking at here? We're looking at essentially the same thing. For our covered call position, we had to put out 21.03, right? Yes, 21.03. I'm sorry. Yes, it was 21.03 because we would have bought the stock at 22.41 and sold the call for 138. Stocks trading above it, we get assigned at 21.50. We would have made the $47 or 2.2% return if assigned. Cash secured naked put. Stock stays above 21.50. The put expires. You keep the full net premium, in this case at 52 cents. or 2.5% return. Break even, 20.98. Break even on the covered call, 21.03. Anywhere below that, we're losing profit on the position. That's a parity trade. The in-the-money covered call is a parity trade, Ken, to the out-of-the-money naked put position. Selling an out-of-the-money naked put. Monetary requirement is very similar because you'd have to put up the full 21.50, depending on your broker, of course, to cover the obligation of selling that short put. Just as if I bought the stock at 22.41, got $1.38 for that in-the-money call, have a cost basis around $21. Have a margin requirement around $21. Break even, 20.98, 21.03. Max profit made above 21.50, 2.5%, 2.2%. They're effectively parity trades of one another. You can't do a bull put credit spread, of course, because you're on level 2. There's no way to do any kind of other manipulation between buying a call and buying a put. You could add a put to the in-the-money covered call, which would reduce the return but give you protection on the downside. That's a standard collar, but I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for right now in that case. In-the-money covered call is the parity trade to the out-of-the-money naked put. Oh, and of course, in both cases, we're selling a 21.50 strike, cash secured naked put or covered call, which means what? We have the exact same percent probability that the stock would remain above 21.50 and we'd make the max expected return and either the out-of-the-money naked put or cash secured put as well. I'm sorry, out-of-the-money naked put / cash secured put or the in-the-money covered call position. They are parity trades to one another. It's always a great idea to check the parity trade before entering a position, just so you see that you can get the most bang for your buck in that position.